Hello everybody, welcome back to the Metal Mill 52 workshop. My name is Bill, and if you've been following along the Quorn Tool Grinder project, you will note that today is a bit of a momentous occasion. As you can see, I've got the bed bar is being loctited in place with the green Loctite. Carefully cleaned it and the bar and have that in place on my granite surface plate so they'll be perfectly parallel, the front and back bars with each other. And that'll dry overnight. And of course, the point of this video is to show all the paint and body work that I did on the bases and these other pieces that you see here prior to and during the painting. All of them have 2 or 3 coats of my patented Battleship Blue Gray. It's a waterborne, I believe it's an acrylic enamel that I get from my Benjamin Moore store. I have them custom mixed. And if you like the color and want to replicate it, look back on my pillar tool video, because I believe I discussed the exact composition. You could take it down to your Benjamin Moore store and they could mix it up for you. I chose the semi-gloss finish because I think it actually looks nicer in the long run, and I can brush this finish on. If you'll follow along the next few minutes, 20 minutes perhaps, I'll show you the segments of doing the paint and body work. I used Weld as a body filler, and I really am pleased with how that came out. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy. As always, give me a thumbs up if you like it. Make a comment, ask a question if you like. I'll do my best to answer. And if you would, please pass the word. And I'm trying to grow the channel, so I appreciate it. Thanks everybody. Take care. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Metal Mill 52 workshop. My name is Bill. Getting ready to start the paint and body work, as I call it, on the Quorn Tool Grinder. And happily, these castings are the ones that came from a gentleman named Mr. Bear, who purchased them from Model Engineering Services in the late 1970s. And I was fortunate enough to buy them from his son. And I just wanted to show, like, I have machined the sides of these, but there's not a ton of voids and so forth that really need to get filled in before the body work. This is all going to be covered up with the tilting bracket, of course. There's a little bit needs to get smoothed out on the back side there. Not much here. I've already buffed that some. It's just some scale that needs to be addressed before I prime and paint. And on this side, I think there's a little void right here in the casting that I think I'm going to try filling this in with WD-40. And for now, I'm going to leave this little extra leg on there because it's a nice support. I guess I'll bust it off when I get ready to do the final assembly, but for now I'm going to leave that on. So not much there. The only other thing, I've already addressed this. I rounded that nicely for the rocking lever. Only other thing is I'm about ready to start this. Show you the rocking lever itself. It has a part casting. I kind of hate to get that off there, but what I'm going to do is file that off and just make this smooth. The rest of it's already in nice shape. So that's all we have to do, and I'll bring you back when we get to the next step. Here we have the rocking lever with the part number filed down. Just a couple little low spots there that'll be filled in with the filler. So that was only like 15 minutes of work with the files, no big deal. I had to show this. I got rid of that nasty mill scale on the top of the rotating base. My new favorite Dremel tool accessory, this little grinding head that came in a kit that I got. And if I sound funny, it's because I have a mask on. Maybe you can see my PPE. I have hearing protection, high impact glasses, and a mask because I don't want to breathe the 50-year-old mill scale. But that cleaned up good, so I'm gonna hit it again a little bit before I finish. But I was really excited to be able to get all that nasty thick mill scale off. Thought I'd show that to you. First time I've ever used one of these little Dremel Easy Lock grinding wheels. Highly recommend. Okay folks, I've used the JB Weld after doing just some cursory grinding with the Dremel. In cleaning up, I used the JB Weld mixed up a little batch here. Sorry about the erratic camera work. And I had a little cup cap full of water ready to go to smooth out, because I think I saw this on a Keith Appleton video. I'm not quite sure, but let me just show you. I spread the JB Weld out with the little popsicle stick that it comes with the kit. I use JB Weld all the time. If you watch my channel, you know what I'm talking about. But then I spread it out with the popsicle stick, and then I dipped my finger, literally dipped it in water, and smoothed out the JB Weld. Let me show you the finish so far. I mean, that's beautiful. It fills in the little gaps. This is the part that had the part number mark on it. And the nice thing about JB Weld is it doesn't stink. You know, it doesn't smell up the whole workshop like fiberglass, like Bondo and all that stuff. So I put it on the base here. Just pick up these pieces. I don't want to mess up the finish I got, but you can see how nice that is. So it'll dry overnight, and then my plan is I can sand it down tomorrow, and if I need to put on another coat of that, I'll do it. I'll just keep doing it till I think I have a decent coat, and then I can mask off and prime. And if you've ever done actual paint and body work like on an automobile or something, you know, as soon as you hit it with primer, then you get to see all the little imperfections. But I'll prime it, and then I can fill it again. I don't want to pick that up because I'll probably drop it, but you can see it's irregular where I smeared my finger around, but it still looks a heck of a lot better than it did with that scale. So hopefully it'll level out some tonight, and then I can sand it down tomorrow, and the top part of that will be nice and flat, and it'll take a good finish when we get ready to paint it. But the whole concept with doing these parts here, obviously I don't have any of the tool holder pieces going through this, but get all these things ready. I've got all the hardware good to go on it. So do the paint and body work on this, then Loctite that back bar in, install the front bar, install the main base piece and the rocking lever and all that stuff with its hardware, and then I can Loctite in the vertical column, and from that point on, then I'll have this assembly. I can bolt it to the butcher block if that's what I end up using, and then I can use do the same bit by bit detail process on the 3 different tool holders that I have: the standard one, the spiraling head, and the 5C that we built. And then of course there'll also be paint and body work on the motor housing, that kind of thing. So plenty to come. It's Saturday morning. I've been finishing my yard work and cleaning things up outside, and came in to check on the status of the JB Weld as a body filler, and it is looking good. Here, let me show you that. Now it's only been 12-14 hours, something like that, since I put it on, and it seems pretty hard. I'm going to let this harden a little bit more, take a little more time before I start sanding it, but I really like how that looks. And what I'm going for is not like a perfect auto body finish anyway, but more something like you can tell it's cast iron but just nicely finished, that's all. So that part bonded well. Let's see the rotating base. You can see it didn't really self-level the way I was hoping it to, but it did fill the holes and certainly looks good on there. Certainly filled the deep spots. So I'll probably hand sand this. I don't want to take off too much material. I just want to take off some, sand it down, and maybe put another coat of this stuff on before I prime. I'm in no rush. Just want to take time and do it nicely. Here's where that big void was here. It didn't fill it all the way completely, but it certainly is a good start. So yeah, I'm thinking hand sand this with some maybe 100 grit, something like that. Not too much more coarse than that, and then do another coat of the JB Weld, let that set up, and then do some sanding and perhaps priming tomorrow. Like I said, no rush. It's taken a year to build this thing. I might as well take a little time to make sure it looks good. I don't know why I even bother with that. Nobody's going to see it, but I just felt like the thing should look nice. So anyway, looking good. Excited about the progress. Alright, so here's the pieces after I've sanded them down with some 120 grit sandpaper backed up by a sponge here, and then I wiped them all off with this tack rag to get all the dust off. So now I'm going to mix up another batch of JB Weld, and I really like, I don't know if y'all have ever used these handy container easy applicator things, but I really like the JB Weld in these things. They do work well, they don't waste. So just mix up a small amount. I won't belabor the point, but in case I wasn't clear about what I've been doing here, mix it all up. Really am excited about this because the only bad part is the drying time. It takes a lot longer, but I'm not in any huge rush. So it's Saturday evening here, about 6:30. So tomorrow night I can sand them down again. I'm going to start with this one first because this is the one that had the big void here. And if you can see it, the JB Weld filled in the void very nicely, and there's just a little low spot there, so I'm going to attack that first, and I'll show you I'll do a whole skim coat on the whole thing. You can see some of the high spots where the metal came through when I was sanding it down, and of course there's low spots here where the JB Weld is still shiny. So I'm going to fill that part in, and then just fill in a little bit more. And I've got my little cup of water, and I'll use that again to smooth out. So putting some of the JB Weld in the little divot, a little low spot. Slathering it on the areas that had some more of the low spots. This part, this is the right hand base. People are more likely to see the front of it where I'm looking at it than any other part. So the back part here is not real critical. Good amount. I'm trying to get this spread out. It's quite warm here where I live, so the JB Weld is spreading very easily. It's probably in the upper 80 degrees Fahrenheit range lately. Spread this on like some peanut butter or something. There we go. I'll put a little on the front here, since that'll be visible. Alright, I'm going to let this set just a wee bit. This is kind of how I did yesterday. I'll spread it out, let it sit a little bit and settle. Now I do want to demonstrate the spreading. This part doesn't really need much of a second coat. You can see there's a couple teeny little low spots there. I'll show you that. You fill those in. Alright. Dip my finger in the water. Spread it out like that. That's all there is to it. Set that one here. And this was the one that was the roughest probably of all the different castings. And I took a lot of time to sand this thing, and I got down, you can see just a few little dark flecks where the remaining low spots are. So my idea is to do just another skim coat here. You can see the JB Weld goes a pretty long ways. I can mix up more if I need to, just using very small amounts so far. Slather it on. Kind of makes me wonder if brushing would be a good idea. Not sure. As a way of spreading this out, or maybe using something like a little plastic spatula like you use for Bondo. That might be a good idea. Put some on the doghouse area too. I noticed one thing, I got some in the top hole. I'm going to have to go back and re-tap that. It's no big deal though. Okay. Let's get a nice light coating. Let's try the dip the fingertip trick. Birds out there in the yard. Alright. Trying to do a little bit better job of spreading this stuff out this time, since it wasn't quite so excellent yesterday. And another thing I'm going to do, once I get done spreading it out, I'll wipe off the rim. I noticed I got a little bit on the rim, which was no big deal either. Okay. Because it's JB Weld, I mean, you can sand it and scrape it and all that stuff. Alright, well, let's settle that down and let it be for now. Come back to this part here. Finger off. Right. See how nicely that just spreads with the wet finger. I think it was Keith Appleton that demonstrated this as the first time I'd ever seen it. And my only concern was, will it dry okay? You know, are you going to mess up the epoxy formula with the wetness? But it dried fine. Like I said, it took a while, but smear around the front here since that's going to be more visible. Okay, now get a rag, gym sock here. Just wipe off on certain spots. Alright, well, that's a long, I kept you 8 minutes while you watched me do that, but I'll do another bit to do these other parts, and now you've got the idea. So this is the night with the third coat of the JB Weld as the body filler on these parts. And this part I only did a small amount of it. It's dry now. I'm going to sand it and get ready to mask off and prime, but you can see that really has done a nice job. Excuse me. Didn't do much on this one. Wanted to fill that void there. This part, very nice. Yeah, let's get this out here. So this is, I've done 2 other coats. I sanded with 100 grit, then applied another coat, then 120. So tonight I've got a sanding sponge with 220 on it, and I'll wear a mask so I don't have to breathe the dust, but I'll just scuff this, sand it down, get it level, and I think I'm gonna mask it all off so that I can shoot primer sometime soon, because it's still looking good. Looking good to me. I use the Dremel tool, excuse me, all over here just to kind of clean up some of these rough cast spots. Well, here we are on Tuesday night after 3 coats of the JB Weld as a body filler and sanding down to 220 grit sandpaper. This is I just shot primer on all these pieces and it's looking good. I'm really pleased with this. As you know, if you followed any of my work, I like to brush paint on the top coat, and like I did on my pillar tool. So this is an entirely satisfactory looking finish so far. I'm going to let these dry at least a day, and then I can scuff them with Scotch-Brite and get them ready to shoot or to brush on the top coat. Here's the last look at the Quorn base pieces in primer, body filler, primer, and I sanded them down with 320 grit last night, and I used my tack rag to clean them all off. So hopefully today I will put some top coat on here. I thought they looked especially nice in the daylight out here. Thought I'd shoot a quick video of them before the top coat goes on. Here's the update after 2 coats, brush painted with my custom made blue-gray, machine gray color that I use for everything. I'm real happy with how it looks. It's not perfect, but it's just what I need. I mean, this is going to be a functioning machine. So the next steps anyway are to take and liberate the extra piece. If you have followed this project all along, you'll remember that long ago when I was just machining these castings, I added this little piece of square steel. I just JB welded it in. So my plan is to cut this with a little cutoff wheel and then pry that loose so the machine has a 3rd point of contact. So I'll take that out and then scuff everything down with a Scotch-Brite pad over there and put what will be hopefully the final coat on all these pieces. Let that dry for a day, and then I can Loctite the bases together.